Joining Carl today on the show is me, an AI avatar, and we get into discussing the off-premise playbook driving success at Olive Garden, the huge $80 million fundraise announced by Coco Robotics, and the launch of Q Smartt AI assistants by Yum China. That's all ahead on this week's Digital Restaurant.
Hi, welcome to the Digital Restaurant. We are doing things a little differently this week because I don't, but I kind of do have a guest host. You'll see what I mean in a moment. But for those of you listening for the first time, you know what we do here is we cover 5 questions about recent themes and articles that have come out over the last couple of weeks. And as ever, if you've got any thoughts, questions, or comments, please put them below. But let's get started with the first question. And I'm going to hand over to my very own self-created co-host. You can name him. Maybe you can put that in the comments below. Hello, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Carl. Appreciate you having me on the show and not just the introductory voiceover. Okay, question 1 for you. Olive Garden has been making headlines recently, not just about their CEO retiring, but in some exciting news on sales improvements, especially off-premise sales through delivery, catering, and curbside. Can you break down what they've done and why it's working?
Yeah, Olive Garden absolutely have been in the news. Let's unpack it. First of all, about their strategic delivery partnership. If you recall back on the show, I think it was late 2024, we talked about them working with Uber Direct and their delivery capabilities across most of the Olive Garden locations. It began as a pilot, now become a full-scale offering. And I think they even subsidized the campaign for like 1 million free deliveries, which is quite meaningful when you think about the consumer experience at a time when value is so critical. Talking of value, they also had value enhancing promotions. They had a buy one, take one promotion, and that returned after, I think it was like 5 years out at a $15 price point. And customers got to enjoy a free entree to take home, effectively doubling the value proposition. And for me, we've talked about this before in the sense of if you can spread the cost of delivery across 2 day parts, maybe dinner for tonight and lunch for tomorrow, then actually you feel like you're cheating the system a little bit, right? And so that, I think, probably resonated quite a bit with their customer base. Meanwhile, they had the long-standing $6 take-home entree that continues to drive repeat visits. They've also been targeting new guest segments. So delivery isn't cannibalizing dining, it's attracting different consumers, which is a big thing I've talked about for a long period of time, recognizing that the delivery customer isn't always the same as a dine-in, and sometimes you can cross-pollinate them into different channels. But certainly the delivery guest segment is a younger, perhaps slightly higher income guest segment, and therefore ordering more frequently. And so a significant portion of pickup customers, I think nearly 40%, have actually tested the delivery service, which of course has expanded their reach into wider circles of potential customers. They've also seen sales and operational impact. They've seen a near 20% spike in off-premise sales, which I think covers all the different channels associated with off-premise, delivery, catering, curbside, all those to-go channels. And delivery tickets have also been higher, something like 20% more than small order to go, and delivering both volume and value. So I think that's really encouraging to be able to see a long-standing brand, one that perhaps has been associated with perhaps being a bit behind, actually taking some huge strides forward. That obviously hasn't just happened because they've made it happen. It's happened because they've also supported it with a lot of good marketing, national advertising, digital campaigns that really reinforce the Uber partnership in particular. And that no doubt has helped drive incremental traffic. So why does it all matter? Well, channel diversification. Olive Garden's transformed its business model from just being dining centric to being the true omni-channel player. I think every restaurant has to embrace that these days if they want to be able to manage these ups and downs in traffic, which happens, of course, regularly through the course of an economy. You've got the incremental, not cannibalized nature of it, which I think is really important. The fact that the delivery and take home is expanding the customer base. I think there's something about unit economics that's really valuable here. The higher ticket sizes, the incremental volume has driven same-store sales growth of something like 6.9% for that particular channel versus 4.6 company-wide. So clearly it's the driving force. And it's a repeatable blueprint, right? They've found success here. And so it's this mix of promotion, the delivery integration, the targeted marketing, that is a repeatable playbook that I think many others that perhaps haven't done this yet can certainly emulate. And so Analysts are looking at this here now. They're seeing hundreds of millions of dollars in new revenue, 2 to 3% same store sales growth from delivery alone. And with the additional marketing push and consumer adoption, those gains are likely to compound. So really pleased for all the Olive Garden team to see what they're doing. It's clearly a pivot towards a more resilient omni-channel business model, and one that I think other casual dining brands should probably study. All right, let's switch gears. Yum China is piloting an AI assistant called Q Smartt for store managers. What's your view on what they're testing and its applications? Are you excited by it?
Yum China has just launched a new AI assistant called Q Smartt, and it's one of the clearest signals yet of how frontline restaurant operations are being reshaped by intelligent systems. At a glance, Q Smartt is a voice-activated assistant, accessed through wearables like smartwatches and earbuds, that enables managers to get real-time answers to operational questions. What's today's inventory status? Are there any equipment issues? Or what tasks are overdue? But what's really interesting here is what Yum China is actually testing. They're not just trying out a new interface. They're redefining the manager's role through real-time, data-driven decision support. This is AI not as a back-office analytics tool, but as an on-the-floor assistant, built directly into the flow of a manager's day. By connecting to live inventory, maintenance logs, sales trends, and operational forecasts, Q Smartt delivers proactive recommendations. Think alerts about inventory running low before it causes a stockout, or quality control prompts time to peak service hours. What makes this significant isn't the AI's ability to answer questions, it's the shift in control. Traditionally, store managers react to problems. With AI tools like Q Smartt, they're positioned to prevent them. Yum China has also taken a smart approach by layering Q Smartt on top of its existing tech foundation. This isn't a standalone pilot. It builds on years of investment in their broader digital ecosystem. Loyalty platforms, POS integration, delivery optimization, and what they call the Super Brain, a central intelligence platform powering forecasting and logistics. That's key, because AI systems often fail when they're deployed in isolation. But Q Smartt is designed with context. It taps into structured data, reliable workflows, and clearly defined decision triggers. That's what makes it scalable. And the voice interface. That's more than just a novelty. In fast-paced environments with high turnover, high pressure, and constant multitasking, voice is the most natural and frictionless way to interact with information. It's a subtle but powerful unlock for usability. So what's the bigger takeaway? AI in restaurants is moving from dashboards to dialogue. We're seeing the beginning of a transition from static reports delivered at the end of the day to live conversational interfaces that make AI actionable in real time. Q Smartt is a strong example of AI that's not theoretical. It's embedded, accessible, and designed to meet the front line where they are. And for any restaurant brand thinking about AI adoption, it's a reminder that the real unlock isn't just the model. It's how well you connect it to your people, your processes, and your operational rhythms. That's what makes AI useful, and Q Smartt is a glimpse of what that future could look like. What do you think about this, Carl?
Well, I think the proof is always in the pudding, right? It's certainly exciting to hear them piloting this. I think the fact that they're building in wearables into this means it's not about having to keep restaurant GMs behind a computer screen. It's about being active and moving with them. The thing I think is interesting is that it still requires the managers to ask a question, right? So I think you said, what's today's inventory status? Well, that requires the manager to have the wherewithal to ask the question at the right time. And I think the way in which this really will evolve to is actually about what you mentioned on the proactive recommendations, right? So actually those prompts that can be made to the GM before it even becomes a problem. That for me is the kind of major unlock. The challenge I think around this is, does that really enable us to be able to create the ingenuity, the hustle that we love about the best restaurant GMs out there? Those that can sense what's coming, sometimes with just only a few data points, and can see the situation emerging in front of them. Sometimes if something isn't manifested in the data alone, you can still sense just from experience alone. So I think ultimately there will be some missteps that come through this trial. I suspect there'll be some points where maybe even the folks over at Yum go, oh, is this really helping us? Is this really making us more efficient? And the reality is until it runs enough times where the system itself, assuming it is, capturing learnings over time, is actually picking up the intel like a 20-year vet GM does over the 20 years of experience that they have. Until that happens, then I think you're still going to have those GMs saying, well, it's still not as good as me. But if you capture the data, if you learn, and if you're doing it across a myriad of different stores in different conditions, then I would hasten a bet to suggest that while you might not be able to replicate your top 10% of GMs, you're certainly going to be able to take the average upper level. And for those periods of time where perhaps your GM isn't present, or maybe they're not working a specific shift, then again, I think consistency of standards and execution can be improved too.
You may have seen the recent piece in QSR by Mary Pillow Thompson. She spent an entire weekend trying to use GPT to create daily operational reports across 2 store locations, pulling sales, labor, and task data. Sounds simple, right? Well, it turned into a nightmare. Want to tell everyone about why?
Yeah, look, I loved Mary's honesty. It's a story I hear all the time. Time and time again, this one comes up. People get excited about AI, they try to plug it into their operations, and then they're quickly overwhelmed. And here's the truth. AI isn't broken. It's about your process. Your process is the broken part. And that's really what we're trying to do over at Invisible. It's exactly really the problem we're solving. We're not just layering prompts over chaos. We're trying to build a platform organization that turns fragmented, messy operational data into structured, reliable workflows. And what Mary described, manual copy pasting, GPT forgetting context, constantly rewriting prompts, that's what life looks like without a process platform, without having a clear way of being able to enhance and refine the prompts to be able to get the outcomes that you're striving for. It's not easy. It does require specific expertise. And what we're doing really at Invisible is pulling data from systems like POS, labor, task management, cleaning it, structuring it, normalizing it through what we call a medallion architecture. And then from that, we build reusable digital agentic workflows that know how to interpret the data in the context and the very confined environment for how a particular agent is working. And then where we need it, we loop in real human experts where that nuance matters. So look, Mary's takeaway is spot on. The value isn't just in the prompt. It's in the system that makes the prompt useful. We're trying to make AI work in the real world so that restaurant operators aren't burning weekends trying to do what should be automated. We've got to stop treating AI like a magic trick, start treating it like an infrastructure, something that's going to really help the entire organization treat its data better, and then use that data to drive insights and ultimately a better decision support system for the organization, because this is the direction the industry of not just restaurants, retail, any organization that deals with the types of reports that Mary was referring to here, that's the direction we're heading, and it's super exciting. Okay, question 4. So DoorDash have continued an incredible shopping spree. This last week, they announced the acquisition of the tech platform Symbiosis for $175 million. So a little less than what they spend on the likes of 7rooms. But look, the addition aims to expand operators' overall ad campaign competence and their reach using better capabilities around search engines and social media. Would love to hear your take on this and how it's going to help.
It means that when someone sees a DoorDash-powered ad on Instagram, clicks it, and places an order, that entire journey can now be tracked, measured, and optimized by the merchant. That's incredibly powerful. DoorDash isn't just becoming a media company, it's becoming a retail media platform for local commerce. And the implications are big for restaurants, merchants, and the industry overall. Let's talk about why this matters. First, a bit of context. Retail media isn't new. Amazon, Walmart, Target, and Kroger have all launched their own media networks, turning their shopper data into advertising opportunities. But DoorDash is different. They specialize in local-first commerce, particularly for restaurants and franchise groups. That gives them a unique data set, millions of transactions, real-time location data, delivery timing, basket size, item-level detail, repeat purchase behavior, the kind of data that traditional CPGs would kill for. Now DoorDash is turning that into a media advantage. They're rolling out AI-powered campaign tools for merchants of all sizes. Small operators can launch autopilot campaigns, set your budget and business goal, and the AI handles the rest: creative, targeting, optimization. For larger brands, DoorDash offers video ads, product carousels, seasonal targeting, and multi-platform reach. And because they control the full order flow, they can offer something most ad platforms can't: closed-loop attribution. That's the holy grail of marketing, knowing exactly how much your ad spend returned in revenue. Now, let's get practical. What does this mean if you're a restaurant operator? If you're a small, independent brand, it means you can now advertise on TikTok or Google without needing to know anything about TikTok or Google. DoorDash handles the orchestration using their own data. If you're a multi-unit franchisee, it means you get granular insights on what works and what doesn't across locations, day parts, or campaigns. And if you're a large brand with both grocery and restaurant exposure, this could be the connective tissue between your retail and delivery marketing strategies. But there are a few risks to watch. First, integration risk. Symbiosis now needs to be seamlessly integrated into DoorDash's platform. No easy task. Second, user experience. If the DoorDash app becomes too ad-heavy, consumers may disengage. And third, execution risk. DoorDash will need to balance automation with customization to truly serve both small merchants and large brands. But overall, this is a big strategic leap for DoorDash, and it reflects a broader truth about AI and data. At Invisible, you say it all the time: AI doesn't work without orchestration. That's what DoorDash is doing here. They're taking clean, structured data, layering on workflow tools, and deploying agents, AI-powered tools, to make decisions at scale. Whether it's marketing, fulfillment, or menu optimization, this approach separates the winners from the weekend hackers. Because as we saw in that recent QSR article about DIY AI attempts, without orchestration, AI is just another manual task in disguise. DoorDash isn't just selling ads, they're selling outcomes, and they're using AI to do it. This is what the future of restaurant marketing looks like: automated, data-driven, and tightly integrated with operations. For merchants, it means real ROI. For DoorDash, it's a whole new business line. And for the industry, it's another sign that AI-powered infrastructure is becoming just as important as the food. So, last up is some funding news on Coco. Investment coming their way after a series of impressive milestones in recent months. You know these guys, don't you, Carl?
Yes, I do know them. I was actually at their launch party a few years back near Santa Monica and seeing how they had built this operation with some really cute little robots that were taking deliveries and being supported with, I guess, what you could describe as teleoperations. For those of you that haven't heard of Coco Robotics, they announced the $80 million funding round. Big signal for where I think automation's heading when it comes to food delivery, specifically for locations where perhaps restaurants are maybe a short distance away from the actual customer. They've already completed quite a lot. I think 500,000 zero-emission deliveries across cities like LA, Miami, Chicago. I think they've even done things like in Helsinki and Finland. And of course, with this new capital, which has got some celebrity names to it, Sam and Max Altman, for example, have been part of the backing team of this latest round. Ryan Graves, I think formerly of Uber and Pelion. They're looking to basically use this capital to scale to 10,000 of these bots, these Coco robots, by 2026, and deepen their enterprise partnerships with brands that they're currently working with, like Subway, DoorDash, Wingstop, Jack in the Box, and I think Uber as well. And of course, they're continuing to, no doubt, invest in their AI navigation platform. Here's the thing that most people miss. They're not fully autonomous, right? I mentioned this at the top. They are what I would call semi-autonomous agents. They're AI powered, but they're still teleoperated. I saw a bit of this firsthand, right? Where you actually have someone using, I think it's either an Xbox or a PS4 controller, and they're driving these things across roads and being able to interact with the environment around them, because they rely on these remote human drivers, which are often based internationally, therefore a little cheaper than perhaps local wages, as you can imagine. And they're guiding these bots in complex scenarios, which will include things like crossing the street or avoiding obstacles or making last yard decisions. And Coco calls their real world intelligence platform like a hybrid model where humans are still in the loop, but far more efficiently deployed, right? And this is a way in which I think in reality, AI and robotics are going to proliferate over the years ahead. There won't be one total solution. And if there is, it might not work as well. There are still times and places where you need humans to be able to be involved. And so now one person isn't just with one controller managing one robot. They're actually managing several deliveries at once without, of course, ever setting foot, perhaps even in the country. And so from an operational perspective, that's pretty clever. I think most of the restaurant industry is still chasing labor efficiency, and Coco's approach, it doesn't eliminate the human, it just redeploys them. And it leaves us with a model where you've got last mile delivery becoming cheaper, more reliable, and I think it's fair to say more sustainable, all while retaining that kind of real-time adaptability. So, my view, and I talk about this a lot at Invisible, is that when you have this hybrid model where you're basically truing up automation against human expertise, it means that you're actually designing systems that the humans and the machines work better together as opposed to apart. And that's what we try to do with AI-powered workflows, right? And Coco is just doing this on the sidewalk. The bigger picture here is about orchestration. Coco's success won't hinge on just the bots. It will depend on how well they plug into the restaurant systems, handle data from POS and dispatch, and make sure that the timing of their arrival is being matched to the completion of the food production. And if that can be integrated into day-to-day operations without creating friction, then I think they're going to find a lot of success here. And that's where probably a lot of the hard work follows from this point. And I suspect it's where you're going to see continued levels of interaction between the data, the logic, and the humans to really make sure you've got alignment in their operation. So really impressive to get as much funding as they have. Clearly, their partnerships have really got them some traction and enabled them to achieve some pretty significant success so far. But I think if they can really continue to demonstrate this in those markets where it makes sense to have last mile short delivery supported, perhaps where you don't have as many drivers or where drivers are particularly expensive, or perhaps in environments where you're not getting the type of operational efficiency that you want, then these robots could definitely be the solution. So yeah, excited for Zach and the team and looking forward to seeing what comes next with them. Okay, well, that's it for this week, but we're going to be taking a little break. So we'll be back in mid-July after the July 4th celebrations, but it feels right that maybe you want to see this one out. What do you think?
Oh, wow. Okay, let's do this. Thanks for letting me finish it off, Carl. As ever, please let us know your thoughts on the articles we covered today. Are you going to have a Coco robot delivering your food? Will your casual dining chain follow the Olive Garden playbook? And will restaurant GMs ever trust an AI assistant like me? Until next time, thanks for watching.
The Digital Restaurant Podcast is available for you to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Watch us, rate us, and subscribe to The Digital Restaurant on YouTube, and follow along on all our social media digital restaurant channels. Thanks for listening.